Hello everybody, welcome back to Univesco TV. We're outside Starbucks coffee here. Mauro's here with me and we have a Frappuccino with us. We're going to talk about Luckin Coffee, and now you may wonder, why are we going to talk about Luckin Coffee when we're outside Starbucks? We're going to talk about the whole Luckin Coffee scandal and how it unfolded here in China, and the whole double bookkeeping and the fraud and everything else. So we're going to discuss into detail why Luckin Coffee collapsed the way it did and what it was trying to do with Starbucks here in China. It took Starbucks around 24 years, started off in 1994 here in China, to until 2018 to become where it is right now, as one of the major coffee sellers here in China, one of the major cafes, chain of cafes around the whole country, China. It's said that Starbucks opens up a store every six hours or something in China, across China, one store across China. There are certain regions in China where there is no Starbucks, but then there are, like for example, you cannot walk around Shanghai and not find a Starbucks. So there's a Starbucks in Shanghai every, I would say, 50 meters, hyperbolically. So in terms of the whole collapse of Luckin Coffee was competing with Starbucks. So they wanted to expand very quickly and dramatically. And there was a huge capital injection by foreign investors, a lot of money from their own company, own staff members, own stakeholders, their own directors. And they just wanted to grow on such a level that it was unseen, unprecedented here in China.
And also put inside technology.
Exactly. For example, Luckin Coffee business model was that you would go to the shop and you would have to use the app to order the coffee, and you'll get your coffee right there, right then. There's no sense of the customer support or customer input or the staff input where you would go and order a coffee, pay the money and get your coffee. You would get the coffee by simply scanning the phone and just being able to order the coffee and you get it. So I remember going to Luckin Coffee and I'm like, I want a cappuccino. I pay the money, I want a cappuccino. They're like, no, you must use the app, and the app is in Chinese. And I'm like, I'm paying money, I want a coffee. Like, for example, I bought this Frappuccino here in Starbucks. I paid money, I got the Frappuccino. I asked the lady, I want a Frappuccino.
Yeah, it's one of those things that in principle is very nice, especially like if you just want to get your coffee right away, maybe while you are going on the road, to on the street, like you are walking to the coffee, so you don't need to wait. So that's nice.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, is something that makes the things more complicated.
Exactly.
Even if like unnecessary complicated, especially like if you don't speak Chinese fluently, maybe you're not in the mood to do this thing, maybe you just want the coffee to relax. So I mean, I would say just be sensitive, like on this, just be more sensible on this thing, like be more reasonable, and just keep the technology on the right level, I would say.
So Luckin Coffee has, as I believe, has fired its CEO and its CEO. But then again, like, the whole business model was flawed. For me, the flaw in the business model was the whole scandal that evolved around that, and then the whole structure of the business. So Luckin Coffee had such a structure where they had an offshore company owning the Luckin Coffee China. I don't know if you know this. And then the foreign investors were investing in the offshore company of Luckin Coffee. And that offshore company was then rerouting those funds to Luckin Coffee China. Luckin Coffee China is using those funds to maybe pay its own executives, expand the business or whatever. And then the foreign investors had no say because the money was being spent on Luckin Coffee China. So they had no say into the actual core business.
Okay.
And they were two separate legal entities. The foreign investors were investing in the whole pedigree of Luckin Coffee, but in an offshore company. So if the offshore company went bust, Luckin Coffee China survives. And if Luckin Coffee China goes bust, offshore company also goes bust because it's the parent company of Luckin Coffee China. So you see how it's...
Indeed, it's a kind of a lose-lose situation.
It's a legal loophole in that regard. And many Chinese companies have known to be doing, utilizing such measures to just basically commit fraud and loot all the investors, foreign investors. So that was one of the major flaws. The story broke out somewhere. There was an 88-page report that came out in January, December last year.
It's Luckin Coffee. It's surpass Starbucks as becoming the number one in China.
Yes.
And then I remember that I was kind of suspicious
Yes.
on this news because I didn't see like the being here, I didn't see like the justification of such a statement.
Yes.
And then a few months later, just after the outbreak, and then it was around April, as you say, there was this report being published, and then I was like, yes, like I kind of, I wouldn't say like I saw it coming, but it ring a bell, like when you see like a statement so powerful, but then you don't see it like being substantiated by like the real situation around you. So what do you think of that?
So as far as I remember, because I posted this on my WeChat, I'll post a screenshot. There was a Market Watch report in December last year that Luckin Coffee, there was an insider report of 88 pages, which is alleging this fraud. So the news broke out then. In January, Market Watch launched the news, and the stock dropped a ridiculous amount that particular day. As far as I remember, it was like something like 47% or something. The stock dropped in that one particular intraday trading session. And then the fact that the stock collapsed, the news broke out, that was when everything started to unfold. The music was stopping. It hadn't stopped, it was slowing down rather. And it dropped from 50, it just dropped suddenly. Now it's trading at 4.4. And it has stopped trading since.
Yeah, indeed.
And what was exactly happening was, just as you mentioned, the fundamentals. So you cannot just look at the technicals all the time. You have to look at the fundamentals. As someone living in China, going to Luckin Coffee itself, the shops, I could see the business model being, from my eyes, I could see that how the whole business model has been unfolded. And for Luckin Coffee to make such a claim, if you go on their website, everything is amazing. We're investing into this technology. We have done this. We have done this. Our sales figures are this. Hyperinflating your sales figures will fool the investors, but you cannot fool the fundamentals. The fundamentals are there are no customers in your shop. You don't have as many branches as Starbucks does. So Starbucks is selling this Frappuccino. They've got 10 locations within a 5-mile radius. Luckin Coffee has got 2 stores within a 5-mile radius. Who's going to sell more coffees?
Starbucks has a long history in China, and also like an history of quite a painful failure for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then like after these 10 years, they were able to really pick up the situation and like make it a true success. Also because here is more of a tea-oriented society, so coffee is something rather new.
Yes.
And then like see like this situation, like claiming that in just 2 years you raise to the top, that definitely rings many bells.
And it raises those red flags. So as you mentioned, China, the coffee culture is growing, but it's not there. The tea culture is the predominant culture here in China. Only the young people who have studied abroad are the ones who will be like willing to invest into coffee, buying coffee, and they go for the whole atmosphere. They don't necessarily go for coffee. So it wouldn't be like as Italians in coffee, for example. Vietnam has a huge coffee culture. So even the Starbucks we went to, we couldn't find a seat in Starbucks to sit down because people in Starbucks, they're just casually sitting there, maybe with their laptops working, or they're just having a chat. So this is the culture here in China for coffee. It's not necessarily for coffee itself, it's just for the whole social aspect.
Absolutely.
Luckin Coffee to surpass all those fundamental drivers and to say that they are raised to the top. Because see, in China, everybody believes the whole bling image. If you go on their website, which I'll also post in some screenshots, everything is amazing on Luckin Coffee. We have this, we have this, we have this. And you're like, hold on a minute. I've gone to the stores of Luckin Coffee. There are not that many customers as they claim to be. How can they be at the top?
Indeed.
Like the fundamentals. So again, you can fool the technicals. You can be mesmerized by the whole image online, the pictures and their whole graphs, sales graphs. But it's the graphs at the end where like, we have a projected revenue, we have a revenue of 12 million or whatever. And you're like, how is it possibly fundamentally? Because you don't have as many stores. If you do the sales figure by the amount of people coming in purchasing, just the usual calculation, basic calculation, it is not just possible.
Indeed.
Because you can say that for Starbucks. So Luckin Coffee, the way it's broke out, I remember. Okay, I'll tell you exactly what happened. So my friend in Mexico is a wealth manager. He sent me a message on WhatsApp that Luckin Coffee dropped down when they dropped from 50 to whatever price. It's like, is it a worthwhile buying? It's like a huge dip in the market and the stock. I'm like, bro, stay away.
Yeah.
I just literally said.
Indeed.
I'll also post a screenshot of that message as well. Stay away. Don't
Indeed.
touch that stock with a 10-foot pole. The reason I said so, because I knew that this stock is going to collapse. The why it's going to collapse? Because the whole business model was flawed. So to succeed in China, it's not necessarily people see the growth of the market or whatever. It is a great place to do business in. But Starbucks didn't succeed for the initial 10 years, as Mauro said, because people just don't have the culture for coffee here. To give them a new product, you have to give them time to be able to adapt to that product. It's not like the Western developed world where you give them a new product, like jump at it. Whereas in China, they take their time to grow into that product.
Indeed. And also you have like the whole brand that is already in place for Starbucks. Like you are not even paying for the coffee itself, you are paying for the experience, for the brand, like for sitting there, enjoy the Wi-Fi and have a chat and do your work there, like being comfortable. So even like breaking this new like behavior and say, okay, instead of going to Starbucks, let's go somewhere else. That is definitely not something that you can overcome in so short time.
Exactly. And also, as I mentioned about, why investing is important. When you are investing into anything, stocks, you have to look at the fundamental drivers and you have to look at the whole aspect of the management. And I can make a separate video on that, why management is the key driver to any company's future and growth prospects. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or if you have any suggestions, please do write to us in the comment sections below. If you have any questions for Mauro, I'll also put in his Instagram and his China Instagram as well, which
Yes.
Mauro has started.
Yes, not an expert on China.
And that Instagram is very useful as Mauro posts daily on something related to China. So do follow him on that and also his personal Instagram, Mr.
Okay.
Ding Maulo.
Exactly.
I'll post in those links.
Thank you.
And thanks so much for watching.
Thank you so much and come back.